All right, let's get over to our lineup here. And you often see just so many commercials about depression drugs on TV, but we have some new information today on why they might not be as effective and what drug makers might not be doing to help the problem. Plus, as we continue to talk about school shootings, you're going to meet a man who says he almost did one when he was a student, what he says stopped him. And you can pretty much find anything on Amazon these days, but the company taking things a step further, not just being online, but they want to be in your house physically. We'll break that down ahead on the Now.
All right, thanks, Chris. It's a busy Monday here on the Now Wisconsin. I'm Mo Hyder. John Erickson has a night off. While the eyes of the world are on the summit in North Korea and Singapore tonight, here in Northeast Wisconsin, we're also hoping for the best and are concerned about what could happen. We spoke to a political consultant on what this meeting could lead to. The Now's Eric Kress joins us live from our Green Bay newsroom with more. Eric.
President Trump has called Tuesday's summit with dictator Kim Jong-un a one-time shot to make history. Now, President Trump will likely request that North Korea agree to denuclearize, but it could just turn into a photo opportunity. Now, most political experts agree North Korea will have a hard time agreeing to disarm or dismantle their nuclear program altogether in any short amount of time. Now, the CIA has even stated the idea of denuclearizing North Korea is impossible, but that's likely going to be at the heart of Trump and Un's conversation on Tuesday. Some political consultants here in Northeast Wisconsin say the fact that the two are sitting down is a huge first step.
If you look at how this whole thing is structured, it's unique. Normally, the aides get together and they write up the stuff and they have it all ready, and it's more of a photo op to get the two together and sign the document. I think he's going in here with an open agenda, and it's kind of a whole different kind of negotiation than we've seen at that level before.
Just a few weeks ago, a similar meeting between Kim Jong-un and President Trump was abruptly canceled. Now, hopefully tomorrow's meeting goes forward as planned. Mo?
All right, thank you so much, Eric. Now let's get a quick check on your forecast with Chief Meteorologist Cameron Moreland, who is out on the weather deck today. Cameron, it finally feels like summer.
Yeah, we had a very cool weekend, Mo. Lots of clouds, temperatures only in the 60s or lower 70s. But today, with tons of sunshine, we made it up into the upper 70s to lower 80s. In fact, today is the warmest day that we have had so far this month. Temperatures actually getting up into the 80s in a couple of spots. We haven't seen that across most of Northeast Wisconsin so far this June. Lots of sunshine today, but now clouds are beginning to increase from the north and west, and those clouds are the tops of some showers and thunderstorms out across Minnesota and far western Wisconsin. These showers and thunderstorms will break up as they move east later on this evening, but we have an additional chance for some showers and thunderstorms as we make our way into tomorrow. Here's SkyCast showing lots of clouds across the area tomorrow morning. There could be a sprinkle out there somewhere, and then we'll watch the chance for a shower or a thunderstorm as a weak system kind of moves across the state during the day. We'll keep that chance for a shower or a thunderstorm in the forecast tomorrow night, and then behind that system as we move into Wednesday, we'll see lots of sunshine, and with a gusty northwest wind, we will warm up. In fact, Wednesday looks to be even warmer than what we saw today, with highs getting up into the lower and mid 80s. And that is a sign of things to come. We've got even warmer weather, let's say hot weather, as we head into this upcoming weekend. I'll have your 7-day forecast in just a little bit. Tonight, mostly cloudy. Overnight lows will be in the upper 50s to lower 60s. Tomorrow, clouds mixing with some sunshine. Temperatures still will be above normal, right around 80 degrees, and we'll have that chance for an isolated shower or a thunderstorm. Mo?
All right, thanks, Cameron. We'll check back with you later on for what an extended forecast. Chris?
The renewed focus on suicides and on depression. It's raising questions just about how effective antidepressants really are. Could the industry be doing more to treat depression? Let's turn to the Now's Chris Welch here. And Chris, what are you learning about this?
So Chris, the CDC issued a report that highlights an alarming trend, that suicide rates went up more than 30% in half of states since 1999. Now, almost half of people who die by suicide have some type of mental health condition. Depression, of course, is a big one. And drugs really haven't kept up. Researchers told Reuters that developing new antidepressants is tricky and that a lot of big pharmaceutical companies have really abandoned their efforts. Many experts believe a lot of these drugs offer only marginal benefit or may just take too long to be effective. We spoke with Nadine Kaslow, former president of the American Psychological Association, who now teaches at Emory University.
I think there is a need for new depression drugs. I think depression is one part of this rise in suicide, and anything that can address any piece of this tragic puzzle is really important right now.
Now, she says there are a couple other key pieces to this puzzle, as she called it, and a big one is taking the stigma out of talking about mental health. And take a look at this, because it's an important phone number. It's the National Suicide Hotline, 1-800-273-8255, or if it helps to remember, 1-800-273-TALK. Dr. Kaslow says it's critical that anyone who may be feeling depressed reach out to professionals, or not even professionals necessarily, just people near you, because she says staying connected to others can go a long way toward helping that feeling of isolation. Chris?
All right, Chris, thank you. Let's turn to the Now News feed. Net neutrality officially gone today. Internet service providers, they don't need to treat everybody fairly now, every website fairly. Critics, though, still fighting to bring it back. State of Texas launching a new app in the wake of the Santa Fe school shooting. The iWatch Texas app is to help people report suspicious activity. And a watchdog group wanting the government to look into Facebook. They want to know how the social network handled teen data privacy. It comes after last week Facebook admitted to sharing information with smartphone makers. Let's turn back to our lineup here. A man who says he was almost a school shooter. Why he didn't do it. What he says can help stop others. That's next here on The Now. Welcome back to The Now. I'm Chris Stewart. And it seems like these days just more and more places have the option of whether or not you want to leave a tip. So it does raise the question of, do you always need to tip? Well, the short answer is no. And U.S. News says in some cases not tipping, especially for bad service, that is okay. And it's usually okay not to tip if you're somewhere, say, like a food truck. And this also applies to places like coffee and sandwich shops where you're just kind of picking something up and walking right out the door. But remember, if you are sitting down at a place where there's a waiter, that waitstaff relying on your tips to pay their bills. Now, U.S. News also says if you take an Uber or a Lyft ride, it is probably a good idea to tip your driver, as you should think of it as a traditional taxi ride where you'd have to tip anyway. Now, a lot of weddings, those happen during the summer. You might be going to some, which means you probably could be hitting up an open bar. Now, if the couple is already picking up the tab, they're also probably paying a gratuity fee, which means tips are already taken care of. Now, if you are curious as to just how everyone else compares when it comes to tipping, creditcards.com says only 2% of people in the U.S. don't tip at all. Don't want to be that person. Well, you've probably already heard a big, intimidating headline, and that's Americans have more than $1 trillion in credit card debt. Now, as scary as this number is, we are also doing a much better job of paying down that debt. WalletHub found that people in the U.S. paid more than $40 billion in credit card debt just in the first quarter of this year, and that's the second highest amount paid since 2008. 41% of people say they'll pay it off in less than a year. The average household about $8,100 in debt, which is obviously still a high number. And interest rates are likely going up again this week, so it's important to pay more if you can do that. There are a couple different approaches that you can take. Now, tackling the card with the highest interest rate first, pay as much as you can on that one, then you pay the minimum on the others if you have multiple cards. Now, you could start by paying off the card with the lowest balance first, or try using specific cards for specific things. If you have a card with a 0 interest rate balance transfer offer, take advantage of that. Then use another card that earns you rewards like cash back for things that you can pay off at the end of the month. And if at the end of the month you can't pay off that card, you know that you are spending too much.
All right, if you're looking to see the Milwaukee Bucks play in their new arena next year, you're not alone. ESPN is reporting the team leads the NBA in new ticket sales for next season. And the Bucks say they're on pace to sell 10,000 season tickets for the first time in team history. Seems everyone wants to get a look at the new arena. And while we're talking hoops, let's check in with sports director Charlie Sakaitis. Charlie has some advice for one particular superstar in the NBA. It's today's take. Charlie.
Kevin Durant is one of the greatest scorers in basketball history. His height, his size, his skill set makes him virtually unguardable, and he was well deserving of Finals MVP this year, the second straight Bill Russell trophy that he's collected. However, in his post-celebratory bliss, KD said something this week that made the record scratch sound in my head. He said, quote, "I feel like it's easy to be the best player when you don't have good players around you. I feel like it's harder to stand out when you have great players around you, unquote, which feels like a little bit of a shot at LeBron. Like, yeah, you can look great if you're dragging Larry, Curly, and Mo to the finals, as if that's some easy thing to do, because you get to take all the shots, get all the glory, get all the attention. And perhaps he's right. Maybe it's harder to stand out on a team full of Hall of Famers with Steph and Clay and everybody getting a little bit of the shine. But you know what? It's a whole lot easier to win with those Hall of Famers than with the Stooges as your supporting cast. Durant is great with a capital G, and I'm not one of those he ruined the NBA by joining Golden State guys. Go get your titles. You do you, KD. Let's just not pretend anything about being on this super team, this Death Star, this crafted in a lab basketball apocalypse is harder than doing it with less talent or less help around. And that's today's take.
Whenever there's a school shooting, one of the first questions is why? Why did it happen? What pushed that person to the point of the unthinkable? Well, now's Chris Welch talking with one man who can answer that and has a very powerful message to share.
His daughter knew nothing.
I was shell-shocked.
His wife knew bits and pieces.
But not the whole story, and this time he bared his soul.
And there it was, laid out in the form of a Facebook post.
I posted it without telling them anything, and I let them read it.
I saw it and I started bawling.
It began with 6 chilling words.
I was almost a school shooter. I didn't carry out anything, I didn't hurt anyone, but in 1996 I almost did the worst possible thing.
Aaron Stark wrote that after hearing his wife Becky and daughter Katie talking about the motivations of the Parkland shooter. Becky remembers exactly what she said.
How can people be so mean that someone feels that they have to take things out on other people?
And sadly, I understand how they could get to that point.
In the moment, he said nothing. He just started typing.
My mental health was in sad shape. I was picked on and bullied for being fat, for being smart, for not playing sports. I was severely depressed and suicidal, so I got angry, and I started hiding weapons around anywhere I hung out frequently.
And he'd spend a lot of his time here at Denver's North High School. And technically he was a student, although he uses that term loosely. He never went to class, he didn't have a circle of friends, he just sort of hung around the building. And that's where he met members from a local gang.
And so I went to one of them one day and I said, hey, can you get me a gun? And because I had planned on either shooting up the school or a mall food court.
What is going through your mind that makes you think shooting up a school or a mall is the answer?
Because it's the most amount of damage possible in the shortest amount of time.
So what stopped him? Well, he'd have to wait 3 days for the gun, and in that time period, one of the very few people who he might have still considered a friend reached out.
He took me to his house, sat me down, gave me a shower, gave me a meal, treated me like a human. And when you treat someone like they're a person when they don't feel human at all, it changes their entire outlook on everything.
He says that friend literally saved his life.
I love my wife without a doubt, but even she pales in comparison to him. I thought that I was useless and worthless and nobody wanted me and no one would ever love me at all, and that I was meant to be that way.
But that feeling is now all in the past, and Stark is using his newfound confidence to tell his story in the hopes of preventing tragedy and changing lives.
I responded in a post and I said, now the world gets to see what I get to see every day.
He's secured a book deal, appeared on national television, and a few days ago, he even gave his very first TED Talk.
He stopped me with his acts of kindness from committing that atrocity that day. I think it's what I was meant to do. I think that this is where I should have been the whole time. I was a stay-at-home dad sitting down playing video games, watching TV all day beforehand. Now, I want to spend the rest of my life going out and talking to people and getting the word out.
I definitely believe he's going to change some lives.
Do you see your dad differently now?
No. I see him as the same person I saw him as 2 years ago, 3 years ago. My best friend and somebody I look up to.
And Stark's most powerful message may also be one of the simplest.
The person who you think deserves the least amount of love, you should give them the most love because they deserve it the most.
Reporting for The Now in Westminster, Colorado,
Sorry.
I'm Chris Welch.
Incredible perspective there, Chris. Thank you. Let's head back to our lineup here, and it may feel like Amazon is just taking over our lives, but now they're taking things a step further, not just selling stuff online, they now want to come into your home. That's next during The Now.
Thanks for watching It Now Wisconsin this Monday evening. I'm Mo Hyder in for John Erickson. It's a Tony for a Green Bay native, Tony Shalhoub. He won the prestigious award for Best Actor in a Musical last night. Even though Shalhoub is pretty far from home, the Green Bay East High School grad is inspiring current drama students here to follow their dreams.
It's exciting because students that are in our program, we have kids, in orchestra, band, and choir, and in the Fine Arts Institute that look to people like this and think that could be me.
Inspiration indeed. Tony Shalhoub is most famously known for his role as a neurotic super crime investigator in the TV show Monk. And if you had to fill your tank lately, you've probably noticed the gas prices. They continue to keep going up. The nationwide average for a gallon of gas is now at $3.01. Here in the Badger State, we're below the national average, sitting at $2.89 a gallon. And speaking of money, taxpayers who missed the April 18th filing deadline facing a higher penalty this week. After June 14th, the penalty for not filing a tax return is at least $210. Experts say even if you can't pay what you owe, turning in your return by June 14th will get rid of some of those penalties. Now let's check back with Chris.
Now Amazon taking over the house cleaning business. Yeah, first they match you with the best house cleaners in town, but now they're actually hiring their own employees for you to use. Now Zandy Taylor checking out just how exactly this would work.
First off, Chris, the housekeeping business is a $16 billion industry, so naturally Amazon wants a piece of that pie. Right now, they're hiring house cleaners as direct employees in Seattle as part of this trial for Amazon Home Assistants. If it works out, this is something we could see nationwide. And this is a twist, though, on a program they launched about 3 years ago called Amazon Home Services. And they describe it, or I like to describe it more as Angie's List or TaskRabbit, where they link you with the top independent contractors in your neighborhood. Whether it's cleaning, gardening, or plumbing, you name it. This new program, though, would allow you to hire an Amazon housekeeper weekly or even bi-weekly, and it will all be done through the online retailer's website, just like you would pay for items that get shipped to you. Should Amazon, though, begin directly hiring employees nationally, consumer experts say it could have big implications on gig economy, just like when Uber came onto the scene. So will these employers get benefits or be paid overtime? What will their training be like? Lots of questions still up in the air, but of course, we'll continue to follow this. Chris?
All right, Annie, thank you. And it is easy to take things for granted, like being able to talk with your doctor when you need to, but what if you couldn't do that?
Necessity is the mother of all invention. It's the little things in life that make a difference, though, right?
Tomorrow here on The Now, meet the woman behind this surgical mask design. It's a game changer for people who are hearing impaired and could have a big impact on healthcare.
All right, welcome back. Cameron is back with one last look at the extended forecast.
I got to tell you, Mo, I'm not a big fan of clouds and cool temperatures during the summer.
Neither am I.
Especially on the weekend.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't at all.
Why does it happen?
Well, yeah, we're going to right some wrongs here as we head through the next week or so. We're going to see a lot more sunshine. Yeah, we'll have that chance for a shower or a thunderstorm from time to time, but more importantly, it's going to start to feel a whole lot more like summer with highs mainly in the 80s. In fact, by this weekend, probably upper 80s to lower 90s in humid conditions both Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon.
Let's just hope it stays like that for a while.
Yeah, I know.
All right, thank you so much for that, Wisconsin. I'm Mo Hyder for Cameron Moreland. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.